video will walk you through the setup of your student grade record sheet in Google Sheets, which is a spreadsheet program. It's a very powerful tool that can be used to calculate all sorts of things. And so instead of me just sharing with you the setup template, it's a good way to learn the basics about spreadsheets and a little programming and practice some great math skills too. So this will serve as your record sheet all year long so that you can keep track of your grades and make sure that your grade is where you want it to be. And if you see anything on your grade record sheet that you're not happy with, make sure to check with me and find out what it is you can do to improve that grade. So here's just a sample of what we're going to create. It seems pretty simple, and most of it is pretty simple to set up. There's just a few formulas that can get a little confusing, but I'll help you and walk you through those as we go through the video. So what we're going to do is first of all have you log into your Google account. I'm going to open up Chrome here, and I'm going to enter my email address. Next, enter in your password. That should take you right to your drive, and you know that you're logged in by the information up here in the right-hand corner. So I'm going to go to New, Google Sheets, and I will name this my pre-algebra grade record sheet. And what I want you to do right away is go over here to share and share it with me, your teacher. If you're not in my class, you're going to want to share it with your classroom teacher. So if you just type in Spady, it should pop up right here, Lynn Spady, and make sure that I can edit and go ahead and hit send. So the first thing we're going to do is set up the titles as you see in the example grade record sheet. So we'll type in item and summative and formative. These are all going in the columns. Notice the columns are labeled with letters. So in column D, row 1, I'm going to type in points received. Keep typing your column headings here. And now for some formatting of those column headings, I will just click on the number 1 that indicates the whole row 1, and I can come up here to my toolbar. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to make sure those are all centered, and then I will do bold, and then I'm also going to come up here to format and go down to text wrapping and select wrap. My summative and formative columns don't need to be very big. It's just going to be an X, as you can see in my example right here. So I'm just going to highlight those two columns and come up here to where the font size is and select 6. And then what I can do is I can move my cursor right in between the B and the C, and I can squeeze it together so it's not as wide of a column. I can do that wherever I want actually. Maybe I want to change the adjusted points possible to a smaller font size, and then I can squeeze that one in just a little bit as well. You can play around with the width of your column. It's really not that big of a deal. I just like to have things nice and neat and formatted nicely, so you can spend a little bit of time doing that. Then click on A1 and drag over to the right so that A1 through J1 are highlighted, and I'll come up here to the fill color, and you can pick whatever color you want. So that's it for setting up the columns. Now I'm going to come down to column K, row 22. So in K22, I'm going to type in a few more headings. So total possible points received, total points possible, grade, and letter grade. Again, if you want to format those, highlight, center, bold. You can even stretch column K out a little bit. If you want to color code those, that's fine as well. Let me do a little bit of explaining on what we're doing here with this spreadsheet. Your summative grade items, such as tests, projects, quizzes, are going to count for 80% of your total grade. Quizzes might also be what's called a formative assessment, and homework, quizzes, and other items that are formative only count for 20% of your grade. So for example, this Chapter 1 test, you got 98 out of 100. But if we're only taking 80% of that, we're taking 80% of the 98, which is 78.4, and we're taking 80% of 100, which is 80. So since that Chapter 1 test counts for 80% of your grade, the adjusted points is 78.4 out of 80, which is a 98%. On Quiz 2, you received 48 out of 50 points. That counts for 20% of your grade. So 20% of 48 is 9.6 points, and 20% of 50 is 10 points. So 9.6 out of 10 is a 96%. Coming down here to the bottom, total points received is actually just the sum of all of these points here that you received. Total points possible is the sum of all of column H. The grade you get is when you take your points received divided by the points possible. And then this is where it gets a little scary, but it's really not that bad. It's just a really long programming formula that says if the number in cell L22, this one right here, if this number right here is a 97, give that person an A+. If L2 is 93, give that person an A. If L22 is 89, give that person a B+, and so forth and so on. So it's a bunch of if-then statements, which are really commonly used in programming. So I'm going to walk you through how to set that up. Again, it looks kind of scary, but once you get the hang of it, it really starts to make sense, and you let the computer or the spreadsheet do all the work for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get started by typing in some of these formulas. So as a sample, let's just type in item 1. Let's just say it is Chapter 1 test. And so that is going to be a summative item, so I'm going to put an X there. And again, I like to have things formatted, and I want that X to be centered. So what I can do is click on the letter B, column B at the top, and that just makes sure everything in the column is centered. So click on the letter B, and then up here, select centered, and then that one's centered. I can do the same thing for letter C. Points received. I am going to just give myself 80 points. And let's say that was out of 100. Okay, so in the percentage column, this is always going to be 80% or 20%. Summative will always be 80%, and formative will always be 20%. In order for it to show up as a percent, click on column F at the top, go to Format, Number, and click on percent. The new total is where we want to calculate 80% of your points received. So in column G, row 2, type in the equal sign, click on the 80, cell D2, and type in times, which is an asterisk, Shift 8 is the asterisk, D2 times 80%. Hit return, and notice right here that 64 was the number that showed up. 64 is 80% of 80. Adjusted points possible, it's the same thing as what we did in column G. We're going to type in an equal sign, and we're going to type in 80% times Shift 8, the points possible, which is in E2. So I'm going to click on E2 and then hit return. 80% of 100 is 80. Again, you might be thinking, I can do that in my head, but we're typing in a formula so that it can automatically calculate for us. For the grade column, cell I2, we're going to type in a formula again. We're going to take the points you received divided by the points possible. So start by typing in the equal sign, click on cell G2, and then divided by, which is the backslash key underneath the question mark, and then click on cell H2. When you hit return, it's 0.93. We want to calculate that and make it a percentage, so click on column I and go to Format Number Percent. So 93%. Your letter grade is a little bit more in depth, and so I'll come back to that in just a little bit. Quiz 2.1. And this happens to be a formative quiz, so I'm going to put an X in that column. The quiz was worth 50 points and you received 40 points. So 40 points out of 50. Remember, in the percentage column, that's either going to be an 80% or a 20%. Since this one is formative, I'm going to type in 20%. Now in this column, we don't have to type in the formula again. That's the beauty of a spreadsheet, is that once we've typed it in, so go to cell G2, there's a little square in the corner that you can actually click once and drag down. I'm going to drag it all the way down to G21. And notice it filled in a bunch of zeros, but on this particular column, it was calculating 20% of 40, which is 8. Same thing in column H. I don't have to type in the formula again. I can just click on cell H2, click on the little square, and drag it straight down. 20% of 50 is 10. Same thing in column I. I don't have to type in the formula. I can click on cell I2, click on the box, and drag it straight down. Notice I get some errors here because what we're doing is dividing by 0. It'll show up that way until we type in other items in column A. If this bugs you, having all of these things here, you can simply delete all of these for now, and then every time you type something in, you can just drag that down one more or two more, things like that. So let's do one more of these. Let's say we get to the Chapter 2 test. This is also summative, and the points received, let's say you received 92 points out of 100. This is going to be 80% of your grade. So as soon as I hit Tab or Return, notice how that all filled in. 73.6 is 80% of 92, and 80 is 80% of 100. I can come over here and click on cell I3 and drag it down. I got a 92%. Hopefully, setting up this spreadsheet so far is starting to make some sense. We just did some basic labels in our columns here to label each column. We also did some labeling over here, which is going to calculate our final grade. And then our chapter tests and quizzes and projects will all be entered in column A, and then we'll fill out all of these items as we take them. So the next step is going to be to move down here to the total points possible and total points received. So come over here to column L, row 22. So this is called cell L22, and we're going to type in a formula. Equals sum, parentheses, which is shift 9, and I want you to highlight all the points received. I'm going to click once on cell G2 and drag down to G21 so that all of those numbers are highlighted in orange. When I let go and hit return, it automatically puts in 156 points, which is the sum of all